Welcome to Patty's Aquatics. Now in today's video, what I want to do, well, I want to test a hypothesis that I have running through my brain, and that's regards to cloudy water that I have in two of my aquariums. And I've been talking about it quite a bit in recent videos. That's my 20-gallon over here with my Medaka rice fish, and the 55-gallon over here that I do plan on putting an axolotl in here in the future. Now, I have an idea of what it is and what's going on, but well, let's just get into it. So really, before I explain what I think might be causing the cloudy water in those two tanks, let's talk a little bit about the cloudy water and that bacteria bloom to begin with within these aquariums. Now, within a lot of videos, I always explain that within my dirted aquariums, I typically get these bacteria blooms, cloudy waters, within the first couple months of setting one up. And I always just explain it as to because these tanks aren't cycled yet, which is true. But I sort of want to get into a little bit more detail of what really that is. So why are we getting these bacteria blooms in these dirted tanks? Well, the answer is simple. So the thing to understand is that in a dirted aquarium, bacteria blooms can really be caused by numerous combination of factors. But dirted tanks themselves, as we know, they utilize that layer of nutrient-rich soil that's beneath your cap. Now, this soil is going to slowly decompose, releasing organic compounds into the water column. Now, if this decomposition really occurs too rapidly, it can overload your biological filtration system, leading to that surge of bacteria population within your aquarium, which hence creates that bacteria bloom. All that white cloudy water that is bacteria in your water column. Now, because we start up these aquariums with that hot dirt layer and all these organics in there, my opinion of why this occurs in my aquariums when we first start is because of that. It's just an overload of it. And when I say in a sense that it's trying to balance itself, that's what it's doing. It's trying to balance itself. Now, how it will go away is typically on its own. You know, over time, that bacteria, and there's multiple different types of bacteria in the water column, they're going to eat each other to the point where all that's left is the good beneficial bacteria. And when enough of it is gone, from what I understand in reading, it's going to leave that water column and stick to the sides of the walls, the plants, any surfaces within your aquarium, and that's when your water starts to clear up. Now, another thing that can cause cloudy water and a bacteria bloom within your aquarium is wood. Now, that's where I'm getting at today, and that's what I kind of think might be going on in these two aquariums. Let me explain. Now, this is that 20-gallon of my Medaka rice fish, and speaking of wood, how I'm talking about, there's this piece of wood in here, and likewise, there's wood in this aquarium too. I've got the big piece there and another one back there, which you can't see right now. Now, the thing of it is, I got that wood from my brother-in-law. It was, if you haven't heard the story, it were roots from an olive tree that he had gotten on a family vacation in the state of Michigan from somebody that those things came from Italy themselves. They were dug up and he brought them to me. I tried boiling them. I did some of them. They're a little big, and dried them out some, and I soaked them, and that water was putrid gross. It stunk, and over time it started to go away. But my thinking is, how come I'm getting cloudy water in this tank? This tank is not a dirty tank. This is just deep layer, deep substrate of just sand. So the whole concept of what I just explained before of why I get these bacteria blooms within a dirted tank in the beginning doesn't make sense in here. So my thinking was, what if it's the wood? Because wood can do this as well. If it wasn't prepared good enough or it was still green in the middle, it can create bacteria, which is going to create this bloom. So it very well could be the wood. Now, if you look closely to here, you can see this cloud. This is just amazing and kind of weird. Now, I did have somebody, someone that watches the channel, contact me and talk to me about this, and he had an idea of me turning off the filter and trying to zoom in to see if anything was moving, as if maybe this cloud was really maybe a paramecium cloud, things that are little micro single-celled organisms that are eating the bacteria. Now, I did do that, and this cloud still does move when the filter's off, but I can't zoom in good enough to tell if that's what it is or not, but I find that to be interesting. but neither here nor there. What I want to do to test my hypothesis is I want to take a piece of wood out, and I think I'm going to take it out of here. I'm going to take this one piece out. I want to do a water change, suck up some of the organic material that is broken off this piece of wood off the bottom a little bit, and then let it sit for however long and see if we have a difference in this water. Now, this one has gotten a little better over time, but this was like a yellowish, like dark cloud of water in here for quite a while. Now, if you don't remember, I did put a sponge filter in this tank just to see if that filtration and water movement would help it a little bit. It has a tad, but it's still cloudy. Now, it may be more beneficial to attempt to take the wood out of this one because it's not dirted. But I really want to do that one first because there's two pieces in here. And so that's what we're going to do. So as of right now, sorry for the spinning back and forth. It just makes it easier for me. I will take this piece of wood out of here, do a little bit of water change, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I took that piece of wood out of there. I did a water change, as you can see, sucked up a lot of that organic material that is falling off that piece of wood off the top of the substrate. You can see the water is pretty clear already. Now, I know that's to be expected because I just did a water change, but it usually isn't this clear when I do my maintenance water changes on this tank because of that. So I've got my finger crossed that that's probably was it. Now, that wood stunk tremendously. It really did. So it's another indication to myself that it probably is that wood and not so much just a bacteria bloom from the soil, from the substrate that I typically get. So we're going to let it sit a couple days or however long, and we're going to see how this progresses. If it starts to get really cloudy again, then I know that that's not it. But if it starts to diminish and get better, well, then we know it's time to work on this 55-gallon, which is going to be a heartbreaker because those pieces of wood I picked out perfectly for the axolotl with caves in there, but we'll see how this goes. We'll touch base again in a little bit. Well, it's been 36 hours since I took that piece of wood out of that 20-gallon aquarium and done that water change. Now, has the cloudy water changed? Well, it's kind of done what I expected it to do. Let me show you. Well, as you can see, the water really has not clouded up any more than it did after I did that initial water change and removed that piece of wood. It still is pretty clear. There is a little bit of a haze to it yet. I think that's completely and utterly normal. I did remove, like I said, removing that piece of wood and doing that water change and getting a lot of that debris off the bottom. Took the majority of that stuff out of there, but I mean, with taking that piece of wood out, we're still going to have a little bit of a bacteria bloom in there because some of that bacteria is still in there, and it's just going to take a little bit. It might take a few days yet, up to a week. And I'd imagine this water is going to be crystal clear like the rest of them. So what I learned from this is that wood is the issue. Whether it is fully not dried out in the middle, it still was a little green potentially, or whatever the case may be, it was harboring bacteria, which was causing my water to be completely and utterly cloudy. And with that, that means what? Well, I did something right away, and I took it out of my 55-gallon here about last night, so it would have been 24 hours after I moved it from the other one. Did a water change in this one. As you can see, the water is pretty dang clear already, and that just tells me again that wood was the issue. Now, this has been probably, I said, about 12 hours since I removed the wood, and again, a little bit of a haze, but considering what it was at, this is much better, and it definitely was the cause, was that wood, in my opinion. So what do I do now? Well, you see, like I mentioned earlier, that wood was supposed to be for this aquarium that is going to be for an axolotl, and they were really good hiding spots that I had thought. I'm just going to have to figure something else out. I have a couple of ideas. I was thinking about maybe making a cave in the center here out of rocks and bring the water down and kind of super glue rocks together to make an actual cave on this bank here as it comes down. We'll see. That'll be a future project, but right now I just want to get this tank clear and healthy, and then I have to figure out what to do with this Anibius I had on those pieces of wood and get the algae off of them. So That's the plan. So what did I learn there in this whole process? I learned really that to make sure if you're going to put wood into your aquariums, make sure it's properly conditioned. Um, I thought I did a good enough job. Well, that obviously was not the case. I did, like I mentioned, I boil it to the best ability that I could with the size that it was. I did put it out in the summer sun for quite a while. I soaked it in just water. But I mean, I really should have seen the signs, knowing that it was scummy layers coming to the top of the water. I had to continually change the water in the bins that I had soaking in outside. I really should have seen that, but it's one of those situations where you really like something that you want to put in your aquarium and you think it's okay and you just kind of overlook a few things. Luckily for me, it did not cause any issues with my fish. My fish didn't seem to have issues at all with it other than just the aesthetics of making my tank really cloudy, and the water did stink here and there. So it's probably a good thing I get it out of there. Now, what am I going to do with that wood? I don't plan on getting rid of it quite yet. I haven't given up on it. My plan is, well, it's winter here where I live, so it doesn't pay to throw it outside right now because it's just going to freeze. I'm going to keep it here in my basement, in my fish room for the winter and let it dry out within the house. And then come summer, I'm going to soak it outside, or not soak it, I'm going to let it soak in the sun outside pretty much all summer and really dry the heck out. And then maybe we'll try this process again next fall and see if it's ready to go. But yeah, that's just a life lesson here in the aquarium hobby and the aquatics is make sure your wood is properly conditioned, or it could throw you off some issues and make things very confusing. Because like I said, my aquariums do suffer from bacteria blooms in the first couple months because of all that excess of organics that are in the aquarium and the water column from the soil and everything that's in it. So that's what threw me off a little bit. But once I started getting it in this non-dirty tank, kind of thought something else was up. So I hope you learned something. I know I did. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And I am offering memberships to my channel. If you're interested in doing that, hit that join button. And then as always, remember to think outside the box and take a step back into nature. I hope to see you next time here at Patty's Aquatics.